My name's Louise Harnby, and I'm a fiction editor. And today I'm going to be talking to the founder of Intelligent Editing and the developer of a piece of software beloved by many editors all over the world, and that's PerfectIt. Before Daniel and I start chatting about all the PerfectIt news, Daniel's going to tell us a little bit about what PerfectIt does, because some of you might not know. So over to you, Daniel. Thank you. It's lovely to speak to you.
No, thank you for having me. This is very exciting. I don't know if I've ever done a video interview like this before, so thank you. And okay, PerfectIt for people who have not come across it before, which is probably exactly who won't be watching this, but hopefully there are some.
Never know.
Never know, exactly. So PerfectIt is mostly sort of consistency checking software. And the key place where it comes in is that when you're editing work, it's almost always under, time pressure and with a pressure to produce perfect work. And it's ultimately dealing with the fact that everything is going to be on a budget. So given a limited time, what is the best document you can produce? And PerfectIt really fits in there. It saves time. It helps you edit faster. And the way I was trying to explain this the other day, I was at the ACES conference. I had a new way of explaining it. I thought a little bit about what gets people into editing. And I think that without delving into the deep psychology of what makes anyone an editor, I think one of the things that does not drive people is the difference between tiny consistency mistakes. So yes, it's fun sometimes when you spot email with a hyphen in one place and not in another, but mostly that's not what's driving people. People get into editing because you care about words, you like reading, you care about communication, you want to explain stories, you want to help people connect better with readers. And these little tiny mistakes that take so much time to spot are not the reason. They are a distraction. They're significant because they jump out at readers, but they're not the reason why we get into this. And they're certainly not the reason why we should be spending a lot of time on a document.
And they are, you're so right, because they take so long to deal with. I've had manuscripts before where particularly if an author's got a budget, people like me are spending perhaps hours and hours and hours when we're using just our eyes, dealing with these tiny inconsistencies, which, as you say, are red flags. And yet, actually, what we want to do is immerse ourselves in the narrative in front of us and to make it better. And if the more time we can spend focusing on the flow of the words and less on, because every time you come across a hyphen that's an inconsistent hyphen or a piece of inconsistent capitalization, as an editor, you're dragged out of the flow of the work as well. And so being able to do that, to save time by having a piece of software like PerfectIt do that for you is just wonderful. And you still get the pleasure of knowing that you're bringing this consistency to the work, but you're not, it is backbreaking doing that manually. I think that's the thing that a lot of editors did. It's just backbreaking work. And I would rather an author paid me to do other things with my time. I want them to feel that I'm going to do those things, but I don't want to have to spend more time than necessary doing it. And that's where your software comes in.
Absolutely. No, we put on the homepage something like, you spend the time on what matters most, which is your words and their meaning. Yeah, that's exactly it. So Daniel, in the past, PerfectIt's only been available to Windows users. Well, that's not quite true. I do have Mac using friends who have been able to use PerfectIt, but they have to be running something like Parallels, or I think it's called VM Fusionware or something, or they've had to go and buy a cheap Windows laptop. So I suppose that's the thing that everybody's talking about, like, what's new for Mac users? That is the news. I mean, so first off, it's been touching and amazing the extent to which people have been going to use PerfectIt. Like you say, they've been installing Parallels. People have been buying computers to just run this program, which is touching. And I know that buying a computer doesn't cost as much as it used to, but still, for Mac users who hate Windows and just run it for one program, that's been phenomenal to see. But yes, no longer. So we are producing PerfectIt Cloud, which is, you're going to have to forgive in the background. You can probably hear the construction noise. But I'll do my best to speak over it. So we're producing PerfectIt Cloud, which is an Office Store add-in. And the great thing about Office Store add-ins is that they are compatible in any version of Office 2016. So if you're on a Mac, if you're on a PC, if you're on an iPad, even in Word Online, which I don't know if anyone actually uses, no matter which version you're on, you see the same add-in. So the functionality is exactly the same across. And we've been developing this for the amount of time that people have heard me saying, a Mac version's coming soon, it's just a few months, it's just a few months. But no. As of 26th of June, we will have a PerfectIt Cloud, which brings compatibility to Mac and to iPad for the very first time. So it's really exciting.
So what about Windows users? So I've had PerfectIt. I've got PerfectIt 3. I've had all the versions of PerfectIt since it was first launched. I work on a PC. Should I rush out and get PerfectIt Cloud?
In a word, no. So the introduction of PerfectIt Cloud is primarily for Mac and iPad users at this stage. If you're using PerfectIt 3, if you've got a Windows PC, that's still going to be the best version that we offer.
Okay.
And it's going to be strange because PerfectIt Cloud looks so much better. It's got the interface is even easier than it was before. It's a beautiful product. But underneath, there are a few things that PerfectIt 3 can do that we haven't been able to do for Cloud yet. So the most important one of those is customization of styles. That's still going to take some time to bring into PerfectIt Cloud. The ability to check footnotes, that we're going to be dependent on Microsoft for them to make some changes before we can bring that in. So if you have PerfectIt 3, if you have a PC, in most cases, the thing to do is not to rush out and not buy this, at least until we produce a new version for the PC, which will be PerfectIt 4. There's one exception, which is, all those people who have the amazing, wonderful users that you've described who have gone and bought VMware and Parallels and even separate computers. A bunch of those users are really frustrated with having to turn them on every time and going through Windows updates, which take forever, and just to get PerfectIt up and running takes 2 hours. And it's saving them a lot of time, so they do it. But if you're one of those people who has both a PC and a Mac, in those cases, yes, you would. Not all the options are included, but it's close enough that you may not want to be uploading and updating your Windows computer each time just to run PerfectIt.
Yeah, and I suppose also for people perhaps who are, I don't know, I was thinking about editors, there are an increasing number of editors who are location independent and actually maybe they don't always have the latest, they're not worried if their computers break and stuff, and the idea perhaps of just knowing that it doesn't matter which PC you're on or which Mac you're on. If you've got a machine in front of you, you can do your work and you can access the core functionality of PerfectIt wherever you are. And that's an important thing, I guess. I mean, I'm not location independent. I am very much dependent. I'm in Norfolk with a rubbish broadband speed. And so I'm kind of like quite keen to keep things offline and local when I can. But knowing that I've got the choice, that will be a big issue for me. So can we talk about price now? Because in the past, once every 2-3 years, you bring out a new version, and I've paid you, I don't know, $90, is it? Can't remember the price off the top of my head. And so that's the way it's worked. But you're doing things slightly differently now, aren't you?
Yes. So we are switching to a subscription, well, sort of a subscription. And I know the minute I use that word, people are turning off this video and don't want to hear anything more, because everyone is sick to death of subscriptions with, you know, Netflix and Amazon and oh my God, you can get a subscription for your vegetable delivery now, which is bonkers. But I think what we're doing is really different to that. We switched to a once a year payment. There's no, you don't, at this point at least, there's no hand over your credit card or anything like that. You pay each year if you want to continue using it. And switching to that kind of model means we can drop the price by a lot. So instead of being a $99 one-off purchase, we've made it $70 per year. And on top of that, we've really dropped the price for, you know, independent editors. So we've worked with as many of the editing societies around the world as we can, certainly all the big ones, to have a kind of a discount. And that's going to be an additional 30%. So the price is going to be just $49 per year for independent editors who are, you know, a member of any of the big editing societies anywhere in the world. So subscriptions mean we can get the price down a lot, and they mean we can create a really compelling, simple offer, which is that you will buy PerfectIt, and then you will get any version you want on any number of devices you want, and not face separate charging, which I think is really what bothers a lot of people. Yeah. So you can have it on you buy PerfectIt, you can install the PC version on your PC, you can install the cloud version on your iPad. You only pay once for that. And you don't get stuck with that additional charge you described, which was the upgrade charge. So yes, we used to have a one-off price, but people like this product, and much more than 60% of people paid the upgrade price anyway. So really there was a hidden recurring element. And by switching to, we can call it a subscription, we've made everything included in that price very transparent, and you get all the upgrades, you get all the updates, you get support. So I think the way we switch the pricing is really going to be attractive, and especially attractive for independent editors.
I think it's wonderful because, I mean, I'm a big fan of the subscription model, even with things like Microsoft Office, because I'm a professional. I want the latest software, and I want it to work in an environment that's stable as well. And so I like having the most up-to-date version of Word. I mean, I had a situation a few years back when I first plonked a download of version 10, Windows 10, on my Windows 8 or Windows 7 computer or something, and I was trying to get PerfectIt to operate in an environment basically with two operating systems, and guess what, it wasn't happy. And so at that point, and because PerfectIt was key to my editorial day-to-day working, it was one of the things that triggered me to actually think, you know what, you need to get yourself an up-to-date computer with the latest operating system already installed. It's not fighting with anything else. And to know now that I'm always going to be running the latest edition of Word on the latest operating system, and that the plugins that fit into that software, like PerfectIt, are going to be the latest editions too. For me, that's just one less worry. It means that I can get on doing the business of editing, rather than thinking, I want to be able to do X, Y, or Z, but I can't because it's broken. So I'm really excited about this new model, because, as you say, it's upfront, it's clear, everybody knows what they're going to pay and what they're getting. And you mentioned something there as well, and that was the issue of support, because in days past, there was a case that if you decided to stick with an older version of PerfectIt, that you wouldn't have access to you. And sometimes, when you get stuck on things, you just want to be able to ask the person who actually really knows the answer. It's not guesswork. And knowing that that's always going to, you get the full package in effect, don't you? So I'm really excited about it. I think it's a really good deal. I think the price is a steal as well. And for those of us who are members of professional editorial societies, what a perk of membership to know that you can get one of your core pieces of editing software at such a huge discount. Thank you.
Yeah, no, those societies and editors within them are absolutely the reason why we are where we are today. That's been the core of this business. So no, I absolutely think that's important to support. And I agree with you completely about thinking about Office and updates that way. I know that a lot of editors have been disappointed when we've said PerfectIt Cloud is only going to work in Office 2016. And they said, well, I'm never moving to Office 2016 because I've heard all these terrible things about it. And I just wonder, every time I hear that, I think, I know those stories are true. When you have a piece of software like Microsoft that is installed everywhere, then you always are going to have some things that don't work. And the people that are going to get on Facebook and are going to seek help are always going to be the ones who have some kind of problem. You never get someone who installs the latest version of Microsoft and says, yep, that worked, and tells all their friends. Yeah. So our perception of these versions has been really sort of distorted by I think the relatively low number of people who've had problems in perspective to the total, in relation to total. And as you say, when you actually look at the package and what Microsoft are offering, I think it's really good. Yeah. And I'm in the fortunate group that I've never had any sort of problems with it. I've used Word on the iPad. I use Word on the PC. I think they've done a really good job of making those two similar and in line. In the past, there's been big differences between those things. I find them, I was able to switch as a long-time PC user to the iPad version. I had no trouble doing that. And they do it at a low monthly price.
Yeah.
And what I've sort of been saying to anyone who's asked about it is something like, yes, there are some users who've had problems, and there have doubtless been lots of glitches, and there always are with endless Microsoft updates. But what about trying it for 1 month? They offer a monthly price and see if it works for you. And if not, you've still got your old version, and you can always go back. But those old versions, they are at this point, Microsoft has stopped supporting Office 2011 anyway. So we're out of that period. Really, yeah, I think as you say, the package they're offering is very good, and especially the kind of value in the monthly offer, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to mention is that I think sometimes there are people in well, not just the editing community, but all sorts of community who are trying to run, say, 2016, 2000, or with all the updates, 2018 software, but on decade-old computers. And that's a bit like sort of taking your mobile phone to medieval times and complaining you haven't got a signal. We need, as editors, to be, I think, working with the latest equipment, within a budget, of course. Most editors aren't rich, but getting the best, I always think, get the best RAM you can, get the best processor you can for your money. And then things like PerfectIt within Word, within Microsoft Office will work the best for you.
Absolutely, and we all make these mistakes. I've been screaming at my printer all morning and pressing over and over again and wasting so much time trying to get this printer to work. And I know the reason why it doesn't work is because it's a really old printer. It will cost next to nothing to replace. But yeah. We're old enough to remember that these things used to be very expensive, and it's so difficult to get rid of them. But actually, when running a business, to spend my morning yelling at a printer is probably not the best use of our time.
No. So can I just check something with you? Can we talk then about the next version of PerfectIt that will be also usable locally? So we've got PerfectIt Cloud, but then there'll come a point, I'm assuming, when there'll be the next version, like PerfectIt 4, that will be in the cloud. Will that also be something that someone like me, who's got a little bit of an iffy broadband connection, can, if they want to, download to their computer?
Oh, so we are not moving. We are not moving to the cloud in any way, shape, or form. Okay. That's not the plan. We're doing very much that kind of approach that Microsoft has gone for, where we have, that you pay once and you have different parallel versions for different devices.
Okay.
So we are not switching to the cloud. There will always be a local version.
Okay.
As I said earlier, it's still kind of the best version for a number of reasons. Okay. And so what we'll have at the moment, if you get a subscription, you will get PerfectIt 3 and PerfectIt Cloud. and as of the end of this year, you'll get PerfectIt 4 and PerfectIt Cloud. And we'll keep the two in parallel, so they're running off ultimately the same code. So that PerfectIt 4 you'll get the update for PerfectIt 4 locally, and at the same time, or almost at the same time, we will update PerfectIt Cloud automatically, and it will they'll offer the same checking.
Okay, great. That's good. I just wanted to be sure of that because just because my broadband is a bit of a nightmare here. And
no, I don't think we've communicated that properly in our literature. So it's a really good question to ask. I'm sure a lot of people will be concerned about that.
So can we talk about then, do you have any specific plans for what would be new with PerfectIt 4 yet? Or can we suggest things?
Well, obviously I'm going to dodge that question because that's the trouble with that question is that if I start saying we've got plans for PerfectIt 4, we are working on PerfectIt 4, and if I start saying the things that I'm working on, the disappointment that will follow when we then say that it failed, we weren't able to make those changes.
You said.
Yes, but I like the idea of suggestions. I said that this business has very much been built by support from editors and feedback from editors. So if we wind the clock all the way back to the first time that I was at the SFEP conference, I remember someone mentioning end dashes and why they could be in the hyphenation consistency check. And let's be honest, at that point, which is 10 years ago, so I didn't understand the significance of that, and I didn't. Why would we need to be looking for end dashes and hyphenation? What's the point? And actually, it was that feedback which we then took on and got quite a few people explaining and saying, well, actually, this is the error that we're looking for. This comes up. It's really difficult to spot because of this. Is there anything you can do? And I don't think it was in PerfectIt 2, but certainly in PerfectIt 3, we built in an end dash versus -2 end dash versus consistency checks.
Yeah, I think you can do M dashes as well.
Yes, we do. The checking for those is a little different, but there's it ultimately came from the same reason, which is editors suggesting that these were the important things that they wanted to see, and I'd love to get those suggestions for PerfectIt 4. So let's think particularly.
I would think legal and medical might be obvious.
Yes, legal. I've got a long list of changes that we want to make for legal, but medical, pharmaceutical, scientific. I know we have a lot of editors working in those kind of fields, and I feel like we haven't done as much for them as we should and could. So I'd love to get suggestions from every kind of editor, but especially those ones would be really good because we need to do more in that area.
I mean, I think speaking as a fiction editor as well, I think there are certain functions I'm using that you have to go. The possibilities are there, but there are certainly things I could think of in terms of the similar word find function that maybe could I think that maybe even we could sort of put forward some suggestions that might help you to push that stuff further forward and help us to adapt the style sheets more so that we could get more benefits in that field too. And I'll certainly be thinking if there's anything else from a fiction point of view that I can push your way. So and I'm sure.
No, definitely, because we've got we always get non-fiction writers saying, can this be used for non-fiction too? And we get fiction writers saying, can be used for fiction. And we don't quite communicate clearly enough that, yes, it's for all of those things.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, the similar words function, lots of people are using that for character names. Can we improve that? Can we make that clearer that that's a possibility? Can we look and see if there are ways of improving that? And already we have got me talking about features which what I swore just 2 seconds ago I would not get into because all those things can go wrong. And then people are already going to be telling me, but you promised. So I will avoid saying more about that, but I am excited by that kind of change and by doing things that are specific to different kinds of editing, for sure.
Well, I think from our point of view as editors, and for people who are watching this who haven't tried PerfectIt yet, knowing that you're responsive to ways in which you can develop the software is a really important thing to emphasize, because PerfectIt has, the various iterations that I've used over the years have just got better and better and better. And that means I've saved more and more time. And so I want to say to people, you know, that when you invest in this software, you are working with a company and with a business owner who will listen to you. So that is a good thing.
Oh, thank you. My guess is that at this point in the video, between the dogs barking outside and the helicopter going overhead, that anyone who is completely new to this software probably stopped watching 20 minutes ago. But yes, anyone with us longer hopefully has experienced that. We are as I say, it's actually the other way around. It's you know, editors have helped build this and have made all this stuff possible. So we are absolutely listening, and we'll continue to iterate and improve. You know, if we improve the product for professional editors, everyone else who uses the software benefits. And you know, we really have the best people in the world advising us. So I think it's fantastic.
Daniel, thanks so much. That's been really, really useful. I'm so excited about not just the cloud, but also PerfectIt 4 coming out. I'm excited that I'm going to be able to use it on multiple platforms, in different spaces. I'm excited that I'm going to be able to get it cheaper than I did last year. So thanks for taking the time to talk to me. It's been brilliant.
Oh no, thank you. Thank you for all the support through all the years. And the excitement and enthusiasm is so encouraging after we've been telling people, you know, soon come, just another month, just another couple months. Now that it's here, it's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.